What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about altcoins today. The purpose of this video is to forecast the coming days and weeks, even for the average altcoin, what we can expect to see. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it, okay? It is the 28th day of September, and here we are looking at the others chart to do this. This is our index, our altcoin index, so to speak. It's the top 125 cryptos, excluding the top 10. So really, it's 115 cryptos. It says total market cap, but it's the total of 115 coins. This chart will really help us determine what's coming over the coming days and the coming weeks here. If this says we're down about 6.6%, the average coin's probably down about 6.6%. If you're outside the top 115, perhaps you're down a little bit more than that. If you're inside the top 115, maybe you're down about this much or even a little bit less than this, right? But really, this is the average of the top 125 coins, excluding the top 10. All right, so let's move on. We're also going to look at the crypto fear and greed index. We're going to look at both of these fear and greed indexes here, right? This is the alternative.me, and then this is the CMC crypto fear and greed index. Why does it keeps doing this? I'll refresh it, and then it keeps coming back. It says it's at a 50, but really it's not. I'll refresh it, and then I'll go away. 34, right? Watch. We'll leave it. It's coming. It is. It should be. At least it's taking a second to load. This might take a few seconds. Yeah. All right, there we go. And then I'll come back, and I swear it won't be like that anymore. But both of these are at very low prices, right? Here we are on the crypto fear and greed index on the 1 year. Okay, this is the last year, not the max. It's not the maximum time frame. You can see that we're at some of the lower levels that we've been throughout this thing's existence as well. But over the past year, this is really, we've only been this low or lower like one other time. And here we were down this low for quite a while, but this was at February 2025 this year until about April. So there's that like scarif tariff event era, right, where everybody was panicking about the tariffs Donald Trump was putting on, and then April everyone's like, oh, this is actually good for the economy. We're actually doing good with these tariffs. The economy is actually doing well. So that's when we started to recover. Now we're back in the same kind of area, but not as low. But however, these are some of the lowest readings that we've seen in the past year. Not just 2025, but dating back to September of last year as well. These are some of the lowest readings that we've seen. So one would imagine that with extreme fear, being that we are at some of the higher levels that we've been at really in the past year, that the market's not rational. We're only down 6%. You guys, from a high to a low, we've dropped 16%. Now that sucks. Who wants to lose 16%, 17% on anything? Nobody does. We're down 17%, okay? Crypto fear and greed index. When we last got here for like the first time, it was right around here. Okay, it was February 25th. We dropped from here to there, okay? February 25th. What was our high to low there? Right, I mean like overall from here. But let's just take the high from January, February 25th. It was the end of February. You guys, we dropped 43%. We dropped 43%. Overall, we dropped a lot more than that. We were at dramatically lower levels as a whole as well. And guess what? Right now, we're at a 26. Back here, we were at a 25. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 25. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy where we are? Now, we went lower, of course, but I'm just saying in that kind of perspective, I think this shows the irrationality that's going on in the market right now, right? You guys understand? It's the end of the bull market. The bear market has begun. Now, back here, people were saying the same thing. But look at the scale difference. It's not even close to the same. People, if there was any doubts about rationality back here, there certainly should be some right now, that people are not being rational, right? And maybe not you, maybe not me. We're the people that laugh at death in the face. We're the people who see people calling for the bear market and we say, hey, you're wrong. But I think beyond just our opinions, there's some kind of verifiable evidence here in the charts that say, hey, people are losing their minds a little bit too much. Okay, we look at the crypto fear and greed index on CMC, CoinMarketCap, which personally, I think this one's a bit more dynamic. I like this one more. I think it's more accurate. But even with that being said, we're at a 34 now. This one's at a 36 now, right? 37. It's basically the same. But this one I do think is a little more dynamic. 34. We're at the lowest levels of fear, or the highest levels of fear, I guess, the lowest levels in this index that we've been at since April. Since April, right? And again, the last time that we went from an area of greed and down, notice how much of a drop it was before we actually got to a 34. Let's see. It was back in January. January until February 6th there. Okay. Just in that same kind of context. So January, from the high of January to February 6th, okay, would have been this week here. even from the opening of that week, that was a 32% drop or more, right? When was, I'm actually curious right here. Hold on, let's really do this. Right? You were up here. It was January 20th. You're in your levels of greed. And you dropped down to, on February 5th, you drop down to the same levels that we're at now in fear, okay? January 20th would have been right here, okay? Right there, so from the high to the low on February 5th, which by the time it was the 3rd, we had already dropped 30% or 40%. On the 5th, we were down an overall 27%. We were down 10% more than we are now. Okay? In the midst of a lot more volatility, in the midst of a bunch more negativity in the media and all this stuff, we're seeing the same readings here on both of these indicators as we were back here during this time, and it's not even comparable. What we're doing here, this is not even comparable to what this was, right? And let alone what it begets, what it was getting to. And people are freaking out. That tells me that there's some irrationality in the markets, right? That likely we are going to see some reverberations to the upside. We just have to be a little bit patient here, you guys. That's all, okay? 8 hours, 53 minutes left. Let's get away from this and let's actually talk about the price predictions now, okay? 8 hours, 53 minutes left in this day, in this week. I'm very much expecting that this chart comes down a little bit, which would then imply that the average altcoin comes down a little bit, right? Here we are. Some people might be looking at the daily time frame hoping that we hold this area as support, higher lows here. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Maybe it does, but I think what's going to happen more so is that we hold this area as support. So we're going to come down and find support somewhere around here. That would imply that the average altcoin has a little bit more dropping to go. If we look at this from a relative high to a relative low, you hit the golden ratio. Typically, you look to find support at the 0.5 or the 382. You kind of have found support at the 0.5 already. But if we return back down there, maybe we get a double bottom or a slightly lower low, something like that. That's a 5% drop. So I would forecast then that at a minimum, between now and probably the end of this next week, we're on the weekly time frame here. You can see we've got 8 hours, 52 minutes left in this week. So we've got a whole week ahead of us before the end of the week, right? It's a brand new week in 8 hours and 52 minutes. I would expect the next low, the higher low, right? This was our low of this move down from December to April. That was our low. This is our higher low in June. We're going to form our next higher low here, I think, in the beginning of October. Either the first day of October or sometime after that, before the 6th or before the 7th of October, I would think that we find our low by the end of next week, if not very early the following week. 5%, 5.4% across the board is what that means. The further down the list of the rankings, the more of a drop you'll probably see. Probably, but it doesn't mean you have to. There might be, the number 500 coin might drop 1% in the same time that all these coins drop 5%. Maybe, who knows? Just typically that's how it works, is that the further down the rankings you go, the more volatility you see, typically. Lower market caps, less liquidity, easier to move the price, right? It's all the same thing. 5%, 5.4 at a minimum to what I would assume is at the 382 there. That would be about a 15% at the maximum. So 5.5%, 15%, something in that area, right? Originally, remember, we were calling for a 10% drop. I don't know if you guys hear my daughter. I think she's just yelling at the TV. I don't know what she's doing, man. But I do think that we drop a little bit more. We probably find support somewhere around there. And imagine here, right? We put a box like this, okay? Put a box down here, or a circle. My box is a circle, I guess. Let's see. Imagine we drop down there. That comes in line pretty well with these lows here, right? It comes in line pretty well with those lows. We don't have to hit this line, right? This imaginary line that I've drawn. We don't have to hit this line, but something lower makes sense to me. And by the way of the fibs, I mean, it makes sense in my opinion that we would drop about 10%. Let's just say about 10%, give or take 5% in either direction, okay? Which means, again, the average altcoin, not every altcoin, but should drop about 10%, 5 to 15%, somewhere in that kind of area there. Looking at the indicators on the daily time frame, the RSI is bearish. Rejected the overbought zone twice. Now we're down here. We actually did reject the oversold zone too, which is nice, but we're not having the same reaction we had back here. In fact, we're actually finding some turbulence at the 40. Stochastics are bearish at the moment, and the MACD looks bearish as well, but not so bearish that we're going to be moving down for weeks and months at a time. I think after about another week, we should have some resolution and then move up. I mean, we're definitely in areas that you would expect to turn around from pretty soon, right? Typically. Like equate it to back here, right? You had a little bit lower to go. About a week later, you found your low, and then you moved up. And how much was that back there? Like from this low point here. It was a 17% drop. Similar to what we're expecting. That was a little bit more than what we're looking for. And I bet back there we didn't have as high of levels of fear. Oh, actually we did. That was April. That was back in April. So we had higher levels of fear back there. But that was after a whole downtrend. Again, the market's irrational right now, you guys. They're very irrational. I think it's clear as day how irrational the market is. Looking at the weekly time frame, right? If it's not clear, just watch the beginning of this video again. Weekly time frame, it's a whole different picture. Stochastics are bullish. The MACD is bullish. The RSI overall is bullish. Right now, it's kind of neutral, but with a bullish approach. Might go a little bit lower, find support at the 50. Hell, we could even go down to the 40 and find support, but we're still in good standings overall. I think it's just a matter of time before the alt markets turn around and start to pump. Whatever altcoin it is, man, I don't care what you're holding. They're all going to pump, man. They're all going to pump. Literally all of them. From a high to a low. Maybe not the blatant scams, but, you know, those ones. Not the ones that are money grab projects, but anything with fundamental value to it that's been around for at least a year or longer, they're all going to pump, man. The next target area that we would anticipate would be about $838 billion. I don't think we stop there, but that's a 2.8x for the average altcoin at a minimum. I think that we go all the way up to a $1 trillion market cap. That's where our next move is going to be, and we probably go just above $1 trillion. That would give us something on the lines of about almost a 4x, 283%, almost a 4x, you guys. So the average altcoin, what I'm saying here is that by the end of this next move, after we move down and then we move back up, by the end of this next move, we should see something on the lines of a 3 to a 4x, okay, for the average altcoin. The ones that are underperforming, they probably only get a 2 to a 3x. The overperformers, the overachievers, they're likely going to see something on the lines of a 5x or more, right? So the top dogs will 5x or more. That's how you know you have a top dog. Probably, let's even say 5.5x or more. Standard run-of-the-mill stuff will be about a 3 to a 4x. Anything less than that is pathetic. Why are you investing in it? Unless it's like Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's one of the top 10 coins. Okay, fine. Okay, you know, security there, legacy, longevity, all that stuff. It's different. What else was I going to say? Oh, yes. And then another reason why I think that within this next week we're going to find support is that we're going to have a hearing. The United States Senate is having a hearing, the Committee of Finance. They're having a hearing talking about the taxation of digital assets. I have a feeling that right now, crypto fear and greed is pretty low. We're in pretty good levels of fear. I have a feeling that people are going to get more fearful after this. There might even be slightly lower prices on that day, the 1st of October, or even on the subsequent days afterwards. But at that point, I think the news will already be priced in. All the people who wanted to panic sell and freak out over whatever happens on this hearing, they're going to sell. And then there's nothing left but buyers. And when you're left in a market where there's nothing left other than buyers, we move up. And when we move up again, guys, look at what we're in right now. We're clearly in a large phase of consolidation here. We've been here since March of last year, 2024. We've been here for a year and a half, okay? Consolidating. When we break out, we're not stopping here. We're not stopping at our all-time highs. We're not probably even stopping at the minimum target. We're at least going here or higher. The average altcoin, understand, will do a 3.7x or more. 3.7x, 4x, 5x or more. And Just as we were saying that the further down the rankings you go, the more you'll probably drop more than 10% or 15%. The further down the rankings you go, the higher of a pump you will probably have. The lower liquidity, lower market cap stuff does pump the most. Not always, not all of it, but those are where you're going to find. You're not going to find the coins that do a 5x or more between now and the end of October. You're not going to find those in the top 100. I mean, maybe there will be some, but the majority of them will not be in the top 100. That's all I'm trying to say. Going into the end of the cycle, we have a lot more growth than that to go. I do expect the average altcoin to do something on the lines of like a 20x. I think we'll hit this 2272 by the end of the cycle, doing something on the lines of a 20x, 21x, whatever. Typically, you do go just above the 2272. I expect this chart, the others chart, to hit a $6 trillion valuation or more going into April and May of 2026. So we've got a lot of growth to go. Things are going to get exciting. If you think that you have any clue as to what alt season is or how bullish crypto can, or what bullish prospects crypto can offer, you have no idea, right? If you've been here since 2021 or earlier, you have some idea, okay? But if you've forgotten, because this whole bull market since 2022, the end of 2022, really 2023 and onward, we've moved like this. This is not bullish. This is not alt season. This is alt season, right? We went over this last time. This is alt season. What we have coming is going to be unlike anything we've experienced so far. This was a taste. We're going to get the real deal. We're going to get the full stick over the coming months going into the end of this year. All you got to do is hold, and most importantly, do not panic. No matter what goes on over the next week, I have a feeling we're going to be at the low points over this next week. And when you're at the low points, typically that's when the negative news comes out in droves, in mass amounts. It makes you panic. It makes you think that you're holding the wrong things or that you're investing in the wrong space. Do not panic. Prepare yourself. Fortify yourself emotionally, psychologically. Fortify yourself. And tell yourself, hey, there's going to be negative news. I bet you between now and the next 7 days, you're going to hear more negative news on crypto than you've heard probably in the past couple of months. Do not buy it. Do not buy the FUD. Do not sell the dip. You buy the dip. You buy the dip. You hold the rip. And then you sell the tip, hopefully. Anyways, hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.